Hello friends, welcome again to Programming Fields. I'm Umesh Rana and today I came up with fifth part in Laravel Ajax CRUD series. So till now we have implemented CRUD operations in Laravel using Ajax along with the data table. We used bootstrap model to create, display and update this to do. Also we used sweet alert library, so before deleting any to do it will ask for the confirmation. And we use the same sweet alert library for displaying success message as well. So when we will create a new to do and even when we will update this to do, after updating this to do, we have captured that response in sweet alert. Last but not least, we appended rows dynamically in the data table. So if we will create a new to do, that will be automatically appended to this table. So let me show you. So let's create another to do. Okay, so if I will click on save, yeah, so the to do is created. So the newly created to do is appended here in this table, but here we can see in this first page we have total 12 to do's, and in this count it is showing 1 to 10 of 11 entries. All right, that means we have total 12 rows, but in this count it is showing only 11. So based on the dynamically created rows, this count is not updating. And even the newly created rows should be moved to the next page based on the count. So here we have two issues. The first one is this count is not updating, and based on the count, newly created rows should be displayed in the next page. The issue with this data table, so currently after creating a new to do, this data table is not refreshing internally. So we will fix this issue. And also we will implement this select all functionality in order to perform bulk operations. And currently we will have to delete it one by one. Alright. So in order to perform bulk operations, we will implement select all functionality here. By selecting all the checkboxes, we will able to delete and we will able to perform mark as completed. Currently we have not implemented this mark as completed functionality. So by adding the multiple checkboxes, we will create two functionalities, one for deleting the selected to-dos and another for mark as completed for the selected to-dos. Alright, so let's get started. So I have navigated to the VS Code editor, and firstly we will be working on the data table count and pagination issue. Okay, so switch back to script.js file, and here if I will scroll down, so here after creating a new to do, we are appending that row directly to the HTML table. So instead of appending the newly created row inside the HTML table, we will add that row in data table. Okay, so for that we will have to create one instance of this data table. We already initialized data table at this top here, so I will create one variable as data table. All right, so this will return one instance of this data table. Now we'll scroll down, and instead of appending this HTML tr, we will assign this to one variable. So I will write new to do row equals, and I will remove this yes, and here I will write data table because I have created this instance data table. I will add that row in data table. So I will write data table dot row dot add. Okay, and inside this we will have to pass this variable. So I will write new to do row. Okay, and after that we will have to draw this data table again so that the newly created to do will be reflected in this. So we will have to write draw function. Okay, and we can pass one flag as false. So inside this draw we have passed this false flag. So this will not make another Ajax call, it will only refresh this data table. Let's save it, come back to the browser, refresh this application, and currently we have total 12 entries inside this to do's. So when we will create another to do, this count should be increment. Alright, and if we will navigate to the next page, then we have only two to do's. So total we have 12, 10 in the first page and 2 in the second page. Okay, so let's add another to do. So I will create one to do as Laravel scheduler description. Okay, now let's click on save. Yes, so the to do is created and this count is incremented to 13. Alright, so this count is automatically refreshed after adding a new row inside this table. If we will check to the next page, we have total 13. Okay, so this is done. Now in the next step, we will be working on this select all functionality. So for that, we will have to add checkbox. So we will have to add two checkboxes. Firstly, in this table header and inside this t body in order to have checkbox against every to do. Okay, so let's come to the VS Code editor and here let's come to the index file first. So inside this t head, just above this id, I will create another th, and inside this th I will create one input type checkbox. Okay, I will give one id as select all and I will pass class as form check input. So this is basically a bootstrap class. So this is done. Now respective to this th, we have to add the same input inside this td as well. So we will write input type checkbox. We will pass class as form check input and value as to do id. Okay, now let's come to the browser, refresh it. Yes, so the checkboxes are added. So this checkbox is for select all and here this is for individual select. Now if we'll click on this select all checkbox, then we can say this sorting is triggering. So we have to make it disable. So when we will click on this select all, this ordering should not trigger. And we can achieve this in two ways. Firstly, we can add orderable property to false inside this th, and another, the same ordering property we will have to add inside this script.js. So we will add directly to this th here. So we will write data orderable to false. Okay, let's come back to the browser, refresh it. Now this ordering is not triggering. All right, we can remove this icon also. So let's add some class for this. We will add one custom class as sort. All right, and respective to this class, we will have to add one style sheet. So we can add a style sheet directly inside this app blade. So we will add sort and we will have to use after and then again sort colon before. Okay, and inside this we will use content property and this content will be none. Okay, and I will add it important here, so it will override the existing property. Now let's come to the browser, refresh it. Yes, so the icon is gone now. This is done. Now we will have to work on this select all functionality. Okay, so we already give an id attribute to this checkbox, that is select all. So based on this id, we will add click functionality. So let's come back to the script.js and let's scroll down, and here we will add select all functionality. Okay, so we have the id as select all. So we will add dot on click function, and inside this click function I will capture all the checkbox available inside this body. Okay, so we will use $body input type equals checkbox. Okay, and I will assign this to one variable as checkboxes. Okay, and I will make all the checkbox selected based on the current checkbox selection. So I will be using checkboxes dot prop attribute. So this prop checked will be, so I will add checkboxes dot prop checked, and this will be checked based on the current checkbox checked. All right, that means if the current checkbox is checked, then based on that checked attribute, other checkboxes will be checked. Similarly, if the current checkbox is unchecked, then others will be unchecked. So we will write $this dot prop checked. Okay, save it. Let's come back to the browser, refresh, and let's click on this select all. Yes, so by clicking on this checkbox, the other checkbox are selected. If we will uncheck this first one, then other checkbox are unchecked. So this check all functionality is working. Now we will have to add the same checkbox input on dynamically added rows when we will create one new to do. Similarly, in that case, we will have to add that checkbox. So let's scroll up in this script.js, and here we are appending newly created to do row inside this data table row. So at this very first td, we will have to add one checkbox. So this will be td, and inside this we will have to add input type equals checkbox, and we will have to pass class as form check input. All right, and this td will be closed, and here we will have to pass value. So we will write response dot to do dot id. Okay, and what else we have passed here? Class. Okay, and we will pass one additional class just like to do checkbox, and the same class I will copy and add it here, so that when we will perform single checkbox selection, so this class will be used to make click functionality. Okay, let's check. So now we will have to add two buttons here, as we are going to perform mark as completed and bulk delete operations. So we will have to add two buttons here just above this table. Okay, so let's add these buttons. So inside this index plate, here I will create one more div class as all Excel 6, and I will make the other column to 6. Okay, and here I will add button one for mark as completed. Okay, and another for delete, and here I will pass class as btn danger and success for mark as completed, and I will change this id to mark completed btn, and this will be bulk delete btn. Okay, let's refresh this. Yes, buttons are visible now. Initially these two buttons will be hidden. When we will check any checkbox, then based on that selection, only these two buttons should appear. Let's add the functionality for this. So initially I will add one class as dnone for both buttons. By default it will be hidden. When I will check this checkbox, then based on the checkbox selection, those buttons should appear. So let's add this functionality for this. So let's copy this id and we will navigate to this script.js, and here we will add inside this select all functionality. So here we will have to add as mark completed btn dot remove class dnone, and similarly for this bulk delete button also. So we will copy this id bulk delete btn and we will add it here. Yes, this is done. Let's check this one. Now if I will click on this select all, then yes, these buttons are visible. All right, but here we will have to hide these buttons again when I will uncheck this. So let's add condition for this one. So I will add if $this dot prop checked. So if the current checkbox is checked, then we will have to show these two buttons. Okay, else we will have to write add class dnone. Yes, this is fine. Now let's check this functionality. Press this, click on select all. Yes, these two buttons are visible. Now uncheck this. Yes, now those buttons are gone. Now in the next step, we have to perform the mark as completed and delete action based on this selection. So we will add click functionality for these two buttons. So let's start for mark as completed first. We will add one click functionality as mark as completed to do. Okay, we already given this id as mark as completed. Okay, so let's copy this selector and we will add on click functionality, and inside this we have to capture all these selected to dos from this table. Okay, that means when we will click on this select all to do, this selected rows id should be captured inside this mark as completed function. So let's capture this. So here I will create one array as const selected to dos, and by default it will be empty array, and instead of const I will make it let, because we will have to push to dos id inside this array. We have to capture this selected to do. So inside this td we already added this checkbox class as to do checkbox. We will capture using this class selector, and we already given value to do id to this checkbox, and here inside this script we will add $dot to do checkbox colon checked dot each function. So we will be using this jQuery for each function. Inside this I will console the current selected checkbox value. So I will write $this dot val. Now let's come back to the browser, open the developer console window, and let's refresh this application. Now let's click on this select all checkbox and then mark as completed. So here we got the selected to do IDs from the first page. Now we have to push the selected to do IDs inside this array. Okay, so we will use this selected to do's dot push, and inside this we will pass this current value. Now after this each function we will have to make one Ajax call. So here I will check if the selected to-dos dot length is greater than 0. That means if we have at least one selected to-dos, then based on that we will perform Ajax call. Here again we will have to write URL. So I will pass URL as to-dos slash mark completed, and we will have to pass type. So this time this type will be post request, and we will have to pass the data attribute as well. So we will write data, and inside this I will create one key as to do IDs colon, and I will pass this array as selected to dos, and thereafter we will have to write success function. So we will write success function, and inside this I will capture response. At last we will have to write error function, error, and I will console this error as console.error. Now we have to add this endpoint, because as of now we have used only resource routes. So we will have to define this route inside this web.php. Just after this we will add post, and here I will define to-dos slash mark completed, and inside this I will call this to-do controller colon class, and here we have to give the function name as mark as completed. Also we can add name route, so we will be adding name to-dos dot mark completed. Now inside this to-do controller we will have to create this function. So let's define this function inside this to-do controller. Just after this function I will add mark as completed, and we will receive request from there. So we will add public function mark as completed, and inside this will capture this request. Okay, now let's put dump and die first. So we will add request all. Now let's come back to the browser, refresh this, open this network console, click on this select all, and then mark as completed. So on mark as completed, this Ajax request is fired, and inside this preview we can see we received this to do IDs. So inside this controller we will have to capture this, and we will have to iterate this, because we are receiving to do ID in the form of array. So based on the IDs we will have to mark as completed inside this database. So we will add if condition, if request has to do IDs, okay, then we will perform for each $request to do IDs as to do ID, and we will find the to do ID individually. So we will be using to do model find and this primary to do ID, and I will capture this in one variable as $to do. And if we have $to do, then I will update the mark as completed flag. So we will write to do is completed to true. Alright, and lastly we will have to save this. This is the first approach. So if we don't want to use this for each loop, then what we can do, we can use wherein clause. So in the second way we can use to do model wherein, and here we will have to pass to do ID. So we already received to do ID in this request to do IDs, and we will use directly update function. So inside this update we will have to update this is completed true. Okay, so this will be more short and optimized, and here at last we will have to return this response, return response JSON status success message to do's updated, and in the else part we will return as a status field message no to do's found. Save it, and let's come back to the browser, click on select all, and then let's click on mark as completed. So on mark as completed we received this success message as to do's updated. Now if we will check to the database, let's click on this, and we can see is completed updated. The first 10 selected rows have been updated here. So we will check the second way. So what we will do, we will comment this for each loop, and we will open this one, and let me refresh this application first. So for the first page we have updated the all to dos as mark as completed. So we will navigate to the second page, and here we have 3 to dos remaining. All right, so if I will click on this select all again, and now let me just perform this mark as completed. Yes, this return to dos updated. Now let me check this table, and now let me refresh this. Yes, the remaining to dos are updated as well. So the mark as completed functionality is done. But here we have one issue. We have to update this status in this real time. So in order to update the completed flag in the real time, we will have to return the updated to-dos inside this JSON response. And in the success response of Ajax, we will have to update the updated value inside this TD. This process will be same as we did inside this to-do update functionality, because currently we have implemented the client-side data table. So we will have to update these things manually, because we cannot make another Ajax call to fetch the updated to-do. Regarding the server-side data table implementation, that we will see in the upcoming videos, in which we will have to make another Ajax call in order to fetch the updated data from the database. So that we will see in the upcoming videos. So currently we will go with the current flow in client-side data table. From this controller, we will return those updated to-dos directly in the response, and here in the success response, we will capture and update the values. So let's proceed this. And here inside this mark as completed function, we will go with this for each flow. So by updating all the to-dos one by one, I will return the updated to-dos in this success response. So here I will create one variable as to-dos array, and here after finding to-do by to-do ID, I will assign the to-dos to this array. Okay, so this will assign the to-do inside this to-dos array. Alright, and before assigning, I want to remove few columns from this to-do collection. So I will write unset to-do title, and will duplicate this for description. Okay, and same thing for created at. In this response, we will have to return the to-dos. So we will write to-dos and to-dos array. Okay, this is fine. Now let's come back to the browser first, and here I will just replay the current Ajax call. So in this response, we received the updated to-dos, and here we are getting ID is completed flag. Now based on this response, we will have to append this is completed flag value in this TD. So let's implement this. Now switch back to script.js, and inside this success function, I will add one condition if response dot status triple equals success, and here I will create one variable as to-dos, and I will assign those response dot to-dos, and in this response we are receiving array of objects. All right, so we will have to iterate. So I will use $.each to-dos function, and inside this I will have to pass index and value. So I will pass to-do, and we already added functionality to update the current row. So if you will scroll up, then inside the update functionality, we already added tr update functionality based on the given ID. So I will just copy and I will add it here. So basically we give in an unique ID to every tr. So here we will have to pass this to-do.id. Instead of this response.todo.title, we will write to-do.is completed, because we have this key as is completed. So we will add to-do.is completed, and here I will add ternary operator, because in this table we are displaying value in the form of yes and no. So here we will write if to-do is completed, then I will show yes, else it will show no. So we will have to update this in completed column. So this is our fifth column from this beginning. So I will add fifth here. Same thing, we will have to update this column in this update functionality as well, because we have added a new column as checkbox. So based on this added checkbox, we will have to update this sequence. Currently this title is moved inside this third column. So I will write third, and the description is moved to the fourth. And after this successful response, we will add sweet alert as well. So we will copy this swell.fire function, and I will add it here, and I will add title as updated, and this message will be to do has been marked as completed, and we will copy this and add it for else part as well, and I will add failed, and this message will be unable to mark as completed, and here this icon will be error. And same thing we can copy and added this for error as well, and we can change this message to something went wrong. Okay, now let's come to the browser and just refresh this application. Currently all the to-dos are already marked as completed. So what I will do, I will reset this status from this database directly. Okay, now let's refresh this one, and yes, So let's check this functionality to mark as completed again. So I will select all these to do and I will click on mark as completed. So yes, so these mark as completed status are updated for these to dos. So this is done. So now in the next step, we will have to add the functionality to update this single mark as completed based on the selected checkbox. So let's suppose if I will select to dos individually just like this, instead of clicking select all, then also we have to show that button and the mark as completed event should be fired. So let's implement click functionality for this. So let's switch back to code and here we added this select all functionality and mark as completed. Just similar to this select all, we will have to add click functionality for individual select. So we will write single select checkbox. So here we will use event delegation. So we have the parent selector as to do table and inside this we will capture this tbody dot on click off, and we already given class to this particular checkbox as to do checkbox. So we will copy this and here we will add to do checkbox function, and inside this I will capture the current checkbox as $this dot find input type equals checkbox. Okay, and here I will assign this to one variable as const checkbox, and I will use this checkbox dot prop attribute as we already added for multi select, and here I will add one condition, if not checkbox dot prop checked. The current checkbox will be checked based on the selection only. Okay, here we have typo mistake checkbox. Now based on the current checkbox selection, we will have to enable the button as well. So let's add this condition. If $this dot prop checked, then we will enable this mark as completed and bulk delete button, else these two buttons will be hidden again. And let's check by checking any of checkbox. Yes, so this is working, but here we have one issue. Just like if I will deselect any of checkbox, the buttons are again hidden. So here we will have to put one condition. If the count of selected checkbox is at least 1, then we will have to show those buttons. So let's add this condition as well. So here we will check the count of selected checkbox and we will add length is greater than 0. If the selected checkbox length is greater than 0, then we will show these buttons, else those buttons will be hidden. Now let's check this. Yes, this is fine. Now in the next step, we have to implement one more functionality. So currently we have added this select all checkbox, and by selecting this, we are getting all these selected checkbox, and by selecting this checkbox, all the other checkbox are selected automatically. Okay, but let's suppose if I will deselect any of this checkbox, then currently this select all checkbox is not deselected. Alright, so we have to add one condition. If the selected to do checkbox inside this tbody is less than total checkbox, then we have to make this select all checkbox to unchecked. Alright, so we have to add this functionality inside this single checkbox click functionality. So let's implement this. So let's switch back to code. Inside this single select checkbox click functionality, we will have to get the total checkbox count inside the current page. Okay, so I will create one variable as const total checkboxes. So here the total checkbox means we have to find the checkbox available inside tbody only, not this select all. Alright, because this is available inside table header. And here I will use $, and inside this I will find the checkbox available inside tbody only, and inside this I will find input type equals checkbox. Okay, and I will use this length function. Now let's console this log. So we will see the total counts. Let me inspect this inside this console window. Let me refresh this first. Yes, so if I will click on any checkbox, then we can see we are getting total count of 10, because in the current page we have total 10 rows. Okay, now let's suppose if we will display all the records. Alright, now by selecting this any of checkbox, we will be getting 13. Okay, so this will work like in this way. So we received the total count of checkbox. Now we have to find total selected checkbox as well. So here we will get using this checked attribute. Okay, so we will create another variable as total selected checkbox equals, and I will write $to do checkbox colon checked dot length. All right, so from here we will get only the selected checkbox count. Now we have to add one condition. It's like if the total checkbox length not equals total selected checkboxes, okay, then we have to deselect the select all checkbox. I will copy this selector and I will add select all dot pop checked to false. Else we have to make this selected checkbox to true, and we will move this if else condition inside this one only. Okay, so here we have added condition, just like firstly we fetched the total checkbox count available inside this t body, and then we fetched this total selected checkbox available inside this t body. Okay, and here we added one condition: if the total checkbox is not equals total selected checkbox, then this select all checkbox will be unchecked. Alright, else if both are equal, then this select all will be checked automatically, and rest the other condition, just like for hiding button and showing button, this will work in the similar way. Okay, let's come to the browser, refresh this once. Okay, now let's click on select all, and yes, this mark as completed button and delete button is visible. Now let's deselect anyone. So as soon as you will deselect any of checkbox, this select all will be unchecked automatically, because in the current page all the checkbox are not selected. Alright, if we will select this again, then yes, the select all checkbox is again checked. Alright, so this is fine. So that's it for this video. In the next video, we will implement this bulk delete functionality. So thank you for joining us in this tutorial. If you found it helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more content, and stay tuned for upcoming tutorials where we delve even deeper into Laravel, Ajax and other exciting web development topics. So happy coding!